I tell people that the mind is like a parachute. It ain't no good unless it's open.
We want to be welcoming in Cincinnati. We want to be inviting in Cincinnati. We want people to feel comfortable here.
We're talking about gay and lesbian issues in a year where there were measures at the national and local level and state level that tried to enshrine discrimination.
Gay rights issues are volatile, in most communities unpopular, and it forces people and the courts to look at the issue square on.
We will either come together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish apart as fools. And I think we've been perishing separately long enough.
This is a story of triumph over the odds.
Cincinnati taught us that we can win, that we can go into a community and win.
One person serving the community and open to the spirit of creation can and will continue to change this world.
Article 12 began in 1993 after City Council passed a human rights ordinance that included gays and lesbians as being protected from discrimination.
And the response to that by some conservative elements in the city, some Christian right groups, was to circulate a petition and to put Article 12 on the ballot. Article 12 was not a real easy thing to understand.
The actual charter amendment language of Article 12 is legalistic, it's complicated, it's difficult to divine.
You got this thing that was no, but then you had to vote yes to get rid of it, and it was just a very complicated thing.
At its core, it was a debate about how accepting Cincinnati was about homosexuality.
It passed fairly significantly.
It was a stinging defeat for the city of Cincinnati, and in particular for the gay community in Cincinnati.
It's probably a blinding flash of the obvious. This is discrimination. There's nothing else to it, period.
Gays, lesbians, bisexuals were no longer protected under the Human Rights Ordinance.
You're saying to the gay and lesbian people of Cincinnati that you can't petition City Council for a redress of your grievances, that you can't lobby for the same kind of protections that other groups in the city can lobby for.
So because of that, a person or a business could openly discriminate against gay people.
You could be fired from your job, kicked out of your house.
You could be refused service in a restaurant or a store
simply for being gay.
I got the Cincinnati blues. I got the Cincinnati blues. I got the Cincinnati.
Well, the city of Cincinnati is my hometown. I believe it's the best small town in the country.
It's a big city with a small town feel.
We need to look realistically at the city of Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has a reputation for being one of the most conservative cities in the country.
Conservative, if not repressive.
And that's true and that's not true.
A backward thinking place.
We're based, the city of Cincinnati is based in one of the top 5 conservative counties in the country.
It delivered the support, I believe, that made the difference for George Bush to win re-election.
We have a huge anti-gay agenda in this area.
Image-wise, I think we've been stuck with all this stuff. We've had Pete Rose, March Shot, and Article 12, and a number of things over the years.
Mark Twain said in his famous quote that if the world ends, he wants to be in Cincinnati because everything here happens 20 years later.
All right, Justin Turner, campaign manager. We're ready for your close-up.
All right, you rolling?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Ted called me, said Stephen Baines with People for the American Way has you in town for the next 2 weeks and that you're doing a documentary about me.
Justin is a very likable, down-to-earth kind of person. He brought the kind of experience that the campaign needed. He was a wonderful kind of person.
What's all this, some kind of a lame attempt to get me to talk about the people involved in the campaign or all the behind-the-scenes stuff that happened?
Yeah, I'm looking for some dirt.
They all went after the farmers like she jumped on that there like that.
You could tell he understood the passion. You could tell he understood what it was going to take to win in Cincinnati.
For me, it was a cut and dry issue. This was discrimination, and this was an opportunity for me to help right a wrong and get rid of a law. But it wasn't too long after that when the Massachusetts court ruling came down, and all of a sudden the entire country was talking about how we treat gay people. So we began to appreciate that the impact we were having wasn't going to be just on the city of Cincinnati, but it was going to be on the country as a whole.
After Article 12 passed in 1993, the gay rights activists and others in town who felt that it was a draconian measure knew that they were going to have to come back someday and get a repeal effort on the ballot. And it took them 12 years to do that.
We talk about the religious community and the political community and the business community as being key players in this, and they all were, and they came together in very remarkable ways. But the origins of this effort at repeal was really very grassroots.
The group Citizens to Restore Fairness, really started off as a small prayer circle.
Groups of meeting in the basements of churches, getting together and thinking about how they could really repeal this law.
As with everything, it starts off with a good idea, but you have to go beyond that.
People for the American Way sent me to Cincinnati to really help engage the religious community. A lot of other organizations and voices were doing other parts of the campaign.
We work to educate the public, elect fair-minded officials, and change public policy.
Most of the time, we're working with communities that are under attack these days, facing anti-gay ballot measures, very similar to the situation, I guess, that folks faced in Cincinnati, but that are increasing in a wide variety of states.
As a representative of a large national organization, I have to check our ego at the door because ultimately it has to be the Cincinnati Citizens to Restore Fairness that wins.
The first thing I taught my field director is that if you've got a volunteer who volunteers full-time on a campaign and who's spending 8 hours a day in the office doing stuff you don't want to do, you better give that person a title. You better make that person a part of the team. And so that's what we did with Ted.
30 to 40 hours a week with the campaign. They'd actually given me a title and a desk.
Not long after that, I hired him on as a field organizer, and he eventually became the field director for our campaign.
The beauty of this entire organization was that people looked around and said, who has the strength that's needed to solve this problem at this table right now? And when the person with the obvious strength would speak up and lay out a plan, the plan was really sound.
It was door-to-door, voter by voter, and it was an attempt to reach as many voters as they could personally.
The overarching strategy was making a human connection with people.
You know, someone opens their door and then someone says gay. And how many times in your life does someone walk up and say gay on your doorstep?
This is a gay campaign. When voters go to the polls, that's the word that's going to stick out. We have to deal with gay first and foremost. The rights, the discrimination, marriage, whatever it is, that's secondary. Get the first word first, and that's gay.